So, welcome back to my James Bond reviews. Now we come to the 21st official James Bond film. So, the Pierce Brosnan days are gone. The last James Bond film was Die Another Day to celebrate the series' 40th anniversary, and now we're on to Casino Royale, which of course is the first of Ian Fleming's James Bond novels, first published back in 1953. Now, when Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman first got the rights to the James Bond films, to the James Bond books for films, they had the rights to all of them, bar Casino Royale, Ian Fleming's first novel, and it was down to Michael Wilson and Barbara Broccoli to go through a lawsuit in 1999, and by the beginning of 2000 they achieved the rights to Casino Royale and were able to bring James Bond's origin story, if you like, to the screen for the first time. So the idea was to put it on hold, make Pierce Brosnan's last film go over the top, as they did with Die Another Day, but they did learn from their mistake. They decided to take Bond back down to basics. They basically decided to strip the character down and to go back to the origin story, the story of how Bond begins, how he gets his 00 license, and what is essentially his first mission. And it's a complex mission as well. It's not straightforward. It's not as simple. It's not black and white. It's a very interesting, intriguing story. So, after the shambles, shall we say, of Die Another Day, it did brilliantly with critics, actually, and with the public on its first release. I remember going to the cinema and just loving it. But 10 years on, you can see where they made the mistakes, CGI, and they did go over the top. It was the Moonraker of its day, and incidentally, it was the biggest of the James Bond films in terms of box office success after Moonraker. So there we go. Sometimes it shows that excess brings in the money, but it doesn't mean that it always has to be about going over the top and outlandish. So very much like the Moonraker For Your Eyes Only transition, it was decided to strip Bond of many of the elements that we've come to expect from James Bond. Obviously, going back for an origin story, first and foremost, they needed a new Bond. They needed a new actor to play Bond. But we were also going to lose some characters that we haven't seen return recently, which is, of course, John Cleese as Q. He took over from Desmond Llewellyn in Die Another Day for one film, and the character of Q hasn't been seen since. Moneypenny is also gone from Casino Royale. Samantha Bond hung up her coat in Moneypenny's office at the end of Die Another Day. With actually quite a sweet little ending for Moneypenny, if you like, with the virtual simulation with Pierce Brosnan's Bond at the end of Die Another Day. But we do have M still here. Of course, you need Bond's superior, the person who is going to grant Bond his 00 license, and M is still played by Judi Dench. I think it was felt that the producers felt that you couldn't recast somebody as brilliant and perfectly suited to her character as Judi Dench for M. So Bond's superior is a lady here, which breaks with the continuity slightly, but we can deal with that. But of course, the big thing was casting a new 007. So up until 2004, it was still considered to be. Pierce Brosnan was still believing that he would make a 5th James Bond film. But in 2004, the decision was scrapped, and it was decided to go back and film Casino Royale. They had the chance, the producers, Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson, had the chance now to take Bond back to the beginning and see what an origin story would be like 20 films into such a long-running franchise. And obviously it paid dividends. Casino Royale opened in 2006 to rave reviews, particularly for Daniel Craig, who so many people doubted. They were at websites saying, you know, Craig is not Bond.com, and they were you know, smearing the fact that Daniel Craig had blonde hair. Bond isn't blonde, non-blonde Bond. But of course, people do seem to forget that Roger Moore had fair hair as well when he played James Bond. It was, yes, it was brown hair, but it was fairly fair hair. It was almost a sandy colour. And, you know, Daniel Craig is no different. So to comment on his hair before they'd even seen him playing Bond, personally for me, was just seemed very childish. So it was down to Daniel Craig to prove from the press conference towards the end of 2005 that he could start work on Bond and bring a gritty side to the role, and boy does he do that. From the outset of Casino Royale, we have a very clever introduction to Bond, and we see him attain his 00 licence with his 2 kills at the beginning of the film, and one of them in particular is a gritty kill. And, you know, within the first 5 minutes of the film, this demonstrates that we have a new, tougher James Bond, a James Bond that reflects the changing ideas of the 21st century. Very different to Pierce Brosnan, very different to all of the rest of the Bonds, because each actor has brought something new to the role, and Daniel Craig's no exception. So from there we segue into the credits sequence, the opening credits sequence, and the gun barrel doesn't open the film. For the first time in the series, it doesn't open the film. It's within Bond's kill. So he kills the guy in the bathroom, turns to him, shoots him, blood dribbles down, and it's a very nice effect, actually. It works very well, and it launches us straight into Chris Cornell's You Know My Name, which it's perfectly just characterises Bond completely, sums him up to a T. That arrogance, you know my name. We know his name, we know this is 007, it's just a new actor playing Bond. And we have Daniel Craig actually within the title sequence as well, which is something they did for Quantum of Solace 2. It'll be interesting to see if they do the same with Skyfall. I believe they have, from reading early reviews, but I'm not sure. So from there, let's talk about the characters as a whole. We have Mads Mikkelsen playing Le Chiffre, the villain, of course, from Ian Fleming's novel Casino Royale, and he's played brilliantly by Mads Mikkelsen. And instead of, you know, villains with diamonds encrusted in their face or villains undergoing gene therapy, the idea here is that the only thing that kind of makes him stand out and makes him look sinister as a villain is the fact that he weeps blood from a tear duct in his eye. So it's quite he plays a very enigmatic villain, one of the more interesting villains of the James Bond series as well. And you see a vulnerability to Le Chiffre as well, which I think is good. You need to see that side of a Bond villain as well. You see it in Bond occasionally, so you should see it in his counterpart, I believe, in the antagonist of the film. So we have Mads Mikkelsen, brilliant as Le Chiffre. We have Mr. White, of course, who once again will return in Quantum of Solace, but actually in a more extended role, but Mr. White obviously plays a part in allowing Daniel Craig to introduce himself at the end of the film as Bond, James Bond. He gets his line, but he has to wait until the end of the film. Casino Royale actually is one of the longest James Bond films. It's up there with On Her Majesty's Secret Service as the longest of the James Bond films to date. And you can see why they pack everything, they throw everything into it, but where they threw everything in and made a mess in Die Another Day, because they couldn't handle everything that was happening, they couldn't balance the action with the quieter, more somber scenes. That is, here's the complete antithesis of that. Casino Royale has its softer moments, but it's adept at the action scenes as well. All you have to do is look at the stairwell fight between Bond and some heavies in the casino. You have to you see the torture sequence at the end of the film, which in many ways is much more effective than the torture scenes in Die Another Day, mainly because they actually show it this time rather than just having teases in the opening credits sequence. But we also have Daniel Kleinman returning with the opening credits sequence as well. It's a very nice motif this time with the playing cards as well. So we have a big poker game in the middle of the film. Obviously, the big high-stakes game. It was chemin de fer at the time of the novel Casino Royale back in the 1950s. But now, brought up to date, biggest high-stakes game is poker. So, you know, that's the game. That's the game in the film. If we look at the female characters, we have Caterina Marino, who plays Solange in the film, and but our central female character is the love of Bond's life, the first love, the woman who he would quit the service for to sail around the world with, to spend the rest of his days with her, and it's played by the absolutely stunning, I don't care what anybody says, beautiful Eva Green, French actress. So she was in some notable French films, and in particular in a film called The Dreamers from Bernardo Bertolucci back in 2004. 2 years later, who'd have thought she'd be the lead female in the reincarnation of 007, and boy does she play the character well. It's a fantastic character, such a vital character in the world of James Bond as well, such a vital female character, and she plays it terrifically. There are fabulous moments in Casino Royale. It stands up as one of the best of the films, certainly. There are lots of standout moments. Martin Campbell himself, returning as director after he introduced Pierce Brosnan in his debut film GoldenEye, he has said that the end of the film is one of the best climaxes of a James Bond film, and I have to agree. It really is an emotional climax. Vesper giving her life to save Bond. And it's a fabulous climax to the film. But of course it leaves it open for the direct sequel. First time that there's a direct sequel in the series with Quantum of Solace. So there are many great moments. Daniel Craig has some great lines in the film. Shaken or stirred, does it look like I give a damn? Just some wonderful scenes. And the M and Bond scenes are particularly good in this film as well, and Bond and Vesper's introduction on the train is another fabulous scene in the film. It's a mature film. It is one of the better films, I have to say, in the series, and that's credit to Barbara Broccoli, Michael Wilson for deciding that Bond needed to be stripped down. They needed to go back to basics. They needed to look at the core of the character, go back to Fleming and find out who is Bond, and is Bond still relevant? So, that was my review of Casino Royale, and I would say, personally, I'd give the film about 9 out of 10. I think Eva Green is the best James Bond girl that we've had in the series to date, and Daniel Craig gives a terrific performance in his debut as 007. James Bond will return in Quantum of Solace.